by, saying that since the election in October, I've had the pleasure of representing you fine folk up at Queen's Park, and I would like to think that I'm a very strong voice for you up at Queen's Park. I'm sure you've heard of numerous things that I've been promoting here locally, as well as the party's platform and policies that sometimes we don't hear about in the media. I sometimes get questions from my constituents. It's like, well, we haven't heard anything from you guys on this and this, and I'm like, well, we don't own the papers, so you're not going to always hear our side of the story. But one thing I can honestly say, and this is a truth that I can honestly, I'm very proud of, and that's the fact that I've known Tim for some time now, and I've come to really admire him as a leader. He's a very strong voice. He has great vision for what the party and the province can and will do. And there's something else that Tim and I share, and I'll be brief, and that's the sad fact that, well, one, we're in opposition, and secondly, that our Boston Bruins are no longer in the playoffs. But it's not easy being a conservative, and it's not easy being a Bruins fan sometimes.
You can tell a lot about our new crop of MPPs, because they're bringing forward very bold and forward-looking ideas. And Ontario is way behind when it comes to organ donation in our province. People often don't know how they can register to donate their organs. They don't know the circumstances there. And as a result, I think we have one of the lowest organ donation levels of similar states and provinces. And it's a tragedy, because that means that people who could be living longer, healthier lives are not. So I want to congratulate them. I think that shows something that is of great benefit to our province.
And just to add to that, they say that imitation is the serious form of flattery. And the fact that it's taken the Liberals 9 years that they've been in power to finally step up to the plate on organ and tissue donation. And after I tabled my private member's bill, and I'm not in it for the glory, and obviously not the money, with the wage freeze coming up, hopefully. But that being said, it's the right thing to do, and it saves lives, and it brings awareness to an issue. I think that I've received overwhelming support, not just from Northumberland, Queen West, but throughout the province, and actually we've received emails from individuals outside of the province as well.
I don't know if you saw the news yesterday. Rob was in question period yesterday too. There's a story, it was a Toronto school, I think, where one of the teachers had the grade 3 students out doing a protest about the pipelines out in Western Canada. And Rob said, as a teacher, he always made sure, despite the fact that he obviously had strong conservative principles and views, that he never tried to influence the kids. He wanted them to be independent thinkers and to get the basics right, and not try, as he said, brainwash our kids. And I think I was proud to see, as my parents are both retired teachers, Rob standing up for what's important in our classroom, supporting our kids, not to get them involved in political activism when they're, 9 years old, but to learn the basics so they'll be successful in life. So Rob, thank you for setting up for what's right in our education in our classrooms as well. I bet he'll get support for individual Liberals, whether their leadership moves forward or not, but if I have the opportunity to serve as Premier, I want to work with Rob and see more done in this realm. It's tragic when you see loved ones who won't live as long or a healthy life as a result of the system's current. I want to talk today a bit about not so much where Ontario is now, but the Ontario that can be, that we should have. An Ontario that is a leader in Canada, the best place to find a good job, a ticket to the middle class where you can then buy a home and raise a family. The kind of Ontario, if you want to start up your own business, opens up the doors and is the best place to do so and to see that business grow. I want to see an Ontario that is the province with the healthiest, thriving private sector anywhere else, from ocean to ocean to ocean in this great country. And in so doing, with more people working, a prosperous private sector, that means we'll have the revenue coming in to pay for things that we care about, like healthcare, taking care of our most vulnerable. Classroom education. I want to see the Ontario that attracts talented people from Western Canada, St. John's, Newfoundland, and new Canadians just like the Hudak family came from what was then Czechoslovakia across the ocean, not knowing a word of the language, only a few dollars in their pockets. My grandparents came to Ontario because they believed in this place of anywhere else in the world. It's a place of comfort, security, and of opportunity. And if they worked hard and played by the rules, there's a better future for their family. They actually opened up their own small business, first in Toronto, then in Sarnia, Ontario. And because of their hard work and sacrifice, voters willing, I would be the first premier whose family came from outside the British Isles. Now that speaks to the incredible culture of opportunity that's always defined our great province. The kind of Ontario we want to see for our own kids and grandkids. But I worry about where we are today. Yeah, it's called attention to it, for sure. And as I said, can I say that for all the Liberals? I don't know, but I bet Rob's bill will be supported by individual Liberal backbenchers. The question will be, will they then actually push their own premier to finally move on this issue? And if he won't, I will. We're in a jam. We're out of money. We're losing good jobs. We're heading towards a $30 billion deficit. We've lost about 300,000 jobs in the manufacturing sector. And the mighty province of Ontario, the one that we want to see as the engine of job creation in Canada, that engine is stalled. And for the first time in the history of Confederation, we're a have-not province receiving equalization payments from the other provinces. They're making Ontario jokes in Newfoundland these days.
We, Port and District Chamber of Commerce includes the rural area. And high-speed internet is not getting there as quickly as it needs to. And we'd like to know a little bit more about your plans to get that out there. We have, within the Port initiative.
Whether I'm here in Cobourg, and I suspect in Belleville and Ottawa later today, and I heard in Barrie yesterday, it is jobs in the economy. That it is hard to find a good job. A lot of people who are underemployed. Parents worrying about their kids if they're going to get a good job. And we've always known in a province where the next generation does better than the one before it, and a lot of people are worried that we're off that course. You know, I went to New York City about a month ago. I went to New York City because I wanted to meet with some of the international lenders, the sort of big international banks, the credit rating agencies like Moody's have recently downgraded Ontario. That's our first credit downgrade we've had since the Bob Rae era. And I want to ask them, when you look around the world in the time of this debt crisis, what's the best advice to how to create jobs, get your economy moving again, to stand up among the rest? And it was important too because as much as we live and breathe and love Ontario, these folks were just another spot on the map. We're just another bunch of numbers. They've got no dog in this hunt. So it's refreshing. And here's what I heard. So what are the top three things you talk to a governor, a premier, a president, a prime minister that places should do? And they said, number one, rein in your spending, balance your books, and pay down your debt. Number two, rein in your spending, balance your books, and pay down your debt. There is, and I'll tell you a bit about our plan. And you know, Rob Milligan's played a key role in talking about that, particularly how it impacts small town and rural Ontario. But some of the highlights that I addressed today on what a PC job plan would look like. First of all, making sure we get our books in balance. Nobody's investing in Greece these days. Nobody's creating jobs there, so we don't want to be the Greece of Canada. Get our spending under control. Number two, lower the costs of doing business. That means lowering taxes on businesses and entrepreneurs, and also getting our energy rates under control. Energy should be an economic fundamental. Reliable and affordable energy is part of our plan, not the expensive experiments happening today. Third, I think we should do a lot more in the skilled trades. Creating opportunities for people who want to get into professions as carpenters, plumbers, electricians. Our system is stuck in the 70s. These are good jobs. We have a plan to create 200,000 more. And fourth and finally, it's just changing the attitude of government to be pro-jobs, pro-growth. When I talk to business owners, workers, managers, they say, like, any time that they try to do something, create a job or expand a business, it's almost like there's an army of bureaucrats in their way telling them what they can't do. Let's get the bureaucrats out of the way, behind business, to help us create jobs again.
And we just got a little back the other day, and there's not much help in Spain. The municipalities want to continue with the money is to recruit doctors. Great, go ahead and do it. I can tell you right now, as the municipal councillor, we don't have the money to start taking over a provincial responsibility of bringing doctors here. We need help, and we need it right away before these doctors go.
All of us support renewable energy, we support the environment.
No.
But it should be focused energy as an economic fundamental, not a plaything for social engineers. I come from Niagara. You folks have, you're in the circle here of Darlington and Pickering as well. So energy's been in our blood. And for 100 years in Canada, we had lower energy rates than our competing states and provinces. So it made us a manufacturing heartland of North America, Canada's breadbasket in many ways.
You have to add that local flavor, like you said. One of the reasons why Bill came back here is he grew up here. We have students, ones that I've taught, who are interested in the medical field, who are perhaps going to become teachers. And I think what we need to do a better job of, Isabel, is we need to sort of tag those students, if you will, as potential doctors or nurse practitioners, etc. Because they do have family already rooted here. They do have a vested interest in our community.
We need to make fundamental changes to the way the government delivers services. A couple of things come to mind. First, I think you got to decide, separate the must-haves from the like-to-haves. You can't be all things to all people, otherwise you get into a $30 billion deficit. Secondly, I think when it comes to government services and programs, you got to decide, should the government be delivering that program, or should they play a regulatory role or support it? Some good, healthy competition in delivery of services will actually get you the best price at the lowest cost. For example, on maintenance of government buildings and vehicles, if it's already done by a business, why would you have the government union doing that when you could actually have a bid out between the government union, the private sector union, the private sector small business, and not-for-profit? Who can actually deliver a service at the best price? And then once you get back into balance, we can't forget we've got to pay down the debt as well. It is right now the third biggest expenditure in all of government. So before you pay for police, for highways, you're paying interest on money already borrowed. And when interest rates go up, they will, it'll be even more of a challenge. You roll out the red carpet. And then when they have that kind of meeting in Ontario, they say, it's like there's an army of bureaucrats around the table telling what they can't do, frustrating their investments. This swamp of red tape, runaround regulation that bogs everything down. It's also you have the audacity to actually want to do something and create a job. There's a whole bunch of people trying to tell you not to. Rob Milligan and I have actually put together a plan on how to balance books. We gave it to the Premier. I sat down with him on November the 8th and presented it to him. I suggested he put this into place because I was worried about the downgrade. Sadly, the Premier ignored my suggestions and we got the downgrade. What did it include? A public sector pay freeze for all of us in the public sector for at least 2 years. That saves you $2 billion there. Arbitration reform. Getting out of the corporate welfare business of where you're taxing 100 businesses to get one a grant because they went to the right fundraiser. And some of the things I talked about earlier of going through every penny, deciding what is actually a core service and what we no longer need or can't afford. And the other side of that coin, you can't cut your way to prosperity. You also have to have a growth plan. And that's what Rob and I were talking about today, telling how to get our economy firing on all cylinders to get more people working. We need business to get out of the way and get behind. We got to get behind businesses again to help them create jobs and to say that their investment, their entrepreneurship is welcome and desperately needed in the great province of Ontario. So folks, those are my 4 points right off the top. Rein in your spending to balance books. Invest in the skilled trades. Lower the cost of doing business and change the attitude of government to be pro-growth, pro-jobs, to get behind business and create jobs and get out of their way.
If Brookside here in Cobourg was understaffed or underutilized, then why are they building new facilities? And another one, Mr. McGinty's riding himself. So I mean, it seems to me that it's a very partisan approach that the McGinty government is taking on job creation in certain ridings, and I don't think it's fair. And I think Tim would agree with me that that's not going to be the PC approach to business in Ontario.
Apprenticeship programs is something that I see as a key element in businesses in the future in terms of electricians, the trades, and all that kind of thing. Have you got any plan in mind that will help create more incentives for the employers to do it now. There was a time that the employers, when times were good, did that themselves, but now they don't. The last 20 years, they haven't been doing it as much, and they seem to need more encouragement by funding and that sort of thing. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
The reality is, Ontario is now for 63 months trailing the national average when it comes to unemployment. We may have gained more government jobs, but we shed a lot of private sector jobs. And if you, as I said, I just believe as conservative, if you want a good public sector that delivers services for people who need it, you need a healthy, thriving private sector. And if you don't have a strong private sector, you can't afford good public services. So what is remarkable to me is we've seen a trend now for 63 months, 5 years plus 3 months, where Ontario has been above the national average in unemployment. Never happened before. So you want an example right there of how our great engine has sputtered? Look no further than that.